Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Allison Hunt, Executive Director of Patriots Point Development Authority. I'm thrilled to welcome each and every one of you this morning to a very exciting announcement. Today, I am delighted to announce a groundbreaking partnership between Patriots Point and Charleston Race Week. Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum is proud to be the new permanent home and full partner of Charleston Race Week. This internationally acclaimed event will now be known as Charleston Race Week at Patriots Point. You can see our new logo here. This collaboration solidifies the connection between our historic museum and ships and a regatta like no other, and holds immense significance for both Patriots Point and the local community. The fusion of Patriots Point and Race Week brings together the rich history of our museum with the excitement and energy of this internationally acclaimed regatta. Charleston Race Week is more than just a sailing event. It's a celebration of community, tradition, and maritime heritage. The USS Yorktown is the ideal location to bring our community together with sailors and guests from all over the world. Patriots Point is also proud to support and help grow the significant economic impact of Race Week on Mount Pleasant and our greater community. We are proud and honored to be a part of a partnership that will contribute to the cultural and economic fabric of our area and offer a one-of-a-kind experience for residents and guests alike. With that, I would like to introduce someone who has a special connection to every aspect of this partnership, Town of Mount Pleasant Mayor Will Haney.
Thank you, Allison. Well, I do have a special connection. As a lifelong sailor, I've sailed in Race Week more times than I can count. I used to head up the Maritime Foundation that ran the land side part of that. I was there back in 2020. And as a reporter, a sailing reporter and writer for the Post and Courier, I covered it when I wasn't sailing in it and sometimes when I was. So now as the mayor of Mount Pleasant and a member of the board of Patriots Point, you're right. I think I've got all the bases covered here. And I've known Randy Draft since I started sailing keel boats in Charleston Harbor back in 2003. Until then, I was a lifelong dinghy sailor. But I just want to say that we rejoice in Mount Pleasant in our connection to the ocean. From our world-famous shrimping fleet, the world's best seafood right here in the town of Mount Pleasant, to the Navy ships that are here now that plied the oceans for the sake of freedom and to protect our country. We don't forget the mosquito fleet, the African Americans in homemade boats who used to sail out of the harbor off to the fishing banks offshore and sail back. And sometimes they didn't all come back. And now we look over here to the College of Charleston sailing team with more national championship and regional championship banners than you can count, more national championships than any college in any sport in the Southeast that I know of, at least when I was writing about them. So Charleston Race Week right here in Mount Pleasant keeps that connection of the town of Mount Pleasant, our blessed connection to the ocean. And what is better or more environmentally friendly than to raise your sail and capture the wind and ply the waters of Charleston Harbor for Charleston Race Week? And I want to thank everybody who has made this possible, because it's not just a series of races, it's a cultural cornerstone for us in Mount Pleasant. We have many people who still sail, many people whose first sailing excursion was right off Shem Creek in Mount Pleasant. And so to now bring sailors from all over the world and know that Patriots Point has this permanent partnership with Race Week to keep it here just means the world to me as a sailor and as a mayor and as a member of the board here at Patriots Point. When I was covering it for the Post and Courier back in my day, we were at the reception over here still at Patriots Point, and the sun was setting, and this was a professional sailor from Europe. And I was interviewing him and asking him what he thought. And he said, "Put the pen down for a second." He said, "You live here, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." And he pointed out to the harbor. He said, "Do you realize what you have here?" He said, "There is no better sailing venue. There is no more beautiful place to watch the sunset than from here over our beautiful partner city of Charleston." And I've never forgotten that. And so we also have an economic contribution to our local economy that Randy Drass will talk about in a minute. It's in the millions of dollars. The town supports Race Week with some of our accommodation tax money. And we also support it with our personnel, with law enforcement, with first responders, with planning, things about parking. This doesn't just happen. People don't just show up in sailboats and start sailing. There's a lot that goes into this. So I pledge my continued efforts in supporting this. And it's important that the whole Mount Pleasant community understand what Charleston Race Week is. It's an international event. My son is a professional sailing yacht captain, and he saw it written up internationally and sent me a message. He said, "Dad, I don't know if you know this, but y'all are making worldwide news with this partnership." So it's a very good thing for Mount Pleasant, for Charleston Race Week, and for our cultural heritage to sailing in Mount Pleasant. And I just want to thank you, Allison, as our new executive director. I know not brand new, but this was a lot to drop in the staff's lap to say we need to think about doing this and we need to move it to the Yorktown, because there's no better place to do Charleston Race Week than in Mount Pleasant. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, I think Mr. Mayor Haney kind of said it. Thanks so much for you to getting the ball rolling with this project. It is a big effort, and it has a large scale. So I also want to thank Allison for taking a leap of faith with us and seeing what it's all about. And I do think it was important for them to see. I think once they saw the scale and what the actual event was about, it generated enough interest to do this partnership. So I really appreciate that. Last year, as you'd all know, was our first time hosting on the Yorktown. We had about 200 boats competing, and you competed against 17 different classes, which means that's 17 different styles of boats over 6 courses. And the scale of the event, it's very unusual. I mean, most events will have maybe 3 courses. We have 6, and we've had 7 at times. So it's a big event to run. Again, last year we didn't disappoint. We had the challenging conditions. We had various breeze, warm weather, great race management, which is always the foundation of the event. We have built the event on the race management. People are coming from 27 different states, 12 different countries. Although our parties are great, but it really comes down to the quality of the racing, and we provide some of the top race management in the country and internationally as well. So that's built our reputation. A little bit on the history of the event. It started 27 years ago. And the questions I'll get sometimes is, well, why do you call it Charleston Race Week when it's not a full week? Well, originally it was on 2 weekends out of Charleston. And then they had a midday Wednesday race, I believe. So it was a week long, and it was out of Charleston. We eventually moved it in the spring to a 3-day event, and that seemed to grow the event significantly. And in 2005, we brought the event to Mount Pleasant, and that just blew the doors off, really. The event started this incredible rise in participation. I had had international events asking, how are we growing when all the events were on a decline back in 2008, 2007, during the hard economic times. And I think it was just, if people were going to do one event because they couldn't afford to do a number of events, Charleston Race Week was the one event they chose to do. So it speaks volumes about the event. I think the highest we've had, 2017, we had 287 boats. 2020 was going to be our 25th anniversary. We had over 300 boats registered to attend, and that's always in the background has been my goal over the years, was to get 300 boats to attend. We were there, but there was this thing called COVID that came in and kind of squashed all our plans and had to put things off. The beauty, 2021 came along, and we were the first major event coming out of the pandemic to actually host. And we hosted about 185, 190 boats in 2021. And that seems to be kind of our number at this time, and I call it kind of a post-COVID. I think most large events are seeing the same kind of impact, So I'm hoping we'll grow this thing. I still want to reach that 300 boat level at some point. So again, South Carolina Parks and Recreation and Tourism, boy, they love our demographics, as does the town of Mount Pleasant. I mean, we're drawing from 27 different states and 12 different countries. So we have a draw from all over the world, and it's an international event. I have to pinch myself every once in a while to see where we are, where we are in the world. And I can tell you that people in Europe watch this event as closely as everybody in the States. So it's a pretty cool deal for us, I think. Again, when I met with the mayor, it was a challenge. It's a big event. We probably have 1,500 sailors. We have 200 race committee that are out on the water. And we have another 125 people who are shoreside volunteers. And then you add their families and friends that come along to Charleston, for the regatta and for the tourism factor. It's a big number. And I think we kind of surprised them. I think last year on Saturday, it was interesting. We had a terrible storm that came through, and I didn't really thinking we were going to have all that great a turnout. But we had 1,500 people aboard that ship Saturday night. So the scale, it requires a large venue. So this just makes it work. If you can imagine the parking and trailer storage and all the different aspects of the event. It's not just a weekend, it's a 4-day event. So it takes a long time. As the mayor alluded to, the dollars and cents, it probably has about a $5 million economic impact to the area. I know working with the town of Mount Pleasant, our housing and hotel impact is about $3 million just in Mount Pleasant. But then you have to look at the launching and hauling that all the yacht clubs do, which makes revenue for the clubs. There's boat yards that are getting revenue launching and hauling all these boats. The marine retail stores are selling product. The wine stores and the liquor stores are certainly selling plenty of items. So anyway, it has a huge impact on the area. And I don't think a lot of people are quite aware of that, that we sort of kind of fly underneath the radar a little bit. Sponsorship, that's an important piece. I was just mentioning with the mayor, I mean, it's a bit of a struggle this time, in these years. But we've been very successful we get a sponsor, we keep that sponsor. We have sponsors that have been with us 18 years, and then we also have sponsors that have been with us for 10 and 12 years. And we've had sponsors that have opened up retail locations here in the area. So again, it has another impact in that it's bringing it, showing the market, the Charleston market, to these different sponsors that we have. And again, with our reach of 27 states and all in 12 countries, it's a pretty significant event to be involved in for these sponsors. I've had one sponsor say that, we don't do other sailing events because we can get everybody at Charleston Race Week. So it's important. Why has the event been so successful? And I think it comes down to the evolution of the event. We do not rest on our laurels. We always are trying to look at ways to grow. The ethos of the event, yes, it's sailboat racing, but it's more about just growing the sport and the awareness of the sport and getting more people into the sport. And that's going to be something that's very significant by having the Yorktown, because it's going to allow us to get the general public involved in the sport, seeing how they can get involved in the sport. And we hope to use that to grow the participation of the sport as well. So it's an incredible opportunity for us. We do, and in that effort as well, we will take proceeds when we're successful enough to be profitable enough. We support community sailing, we support youth sailing teams, we support any sailing program or marine program that we feel like will support and grow the event with us. So it's very, very important. It's problem I have, I guess, a little bit. Every year I'll go to my team, and we have, a significant sized team, and I'll have this phrase that they just hate to hear, I guess, but I'll say, I've got some bad news and I've got some good news. Good news is we just ran a great event. The bad news is we've got to make that great event better. And every year, and obviously we're off to a great start thanks to Will and Allison on this event. So thanks so much for listening to me. I could go on for hours, but I hope you come away with a better understanding of why this event's such a great event and why this partnership is so important. And thank you again, Mayor Haney and Allison, for this great opportunity. We won't let you down. And if you have any other further questions, I'm free to take them now if you have them. I'm sorry? Well, it's the 12 countries that we've had participate through the years. And, obviously Canada, Italy, we've had Spain, UK is a big supporter. Matter of fact, we actually market the event in the UK. We've had Estonia, we've had, Australia and Brazil. And these are world-class sailors that are coming. I'm sorry? And Italy, I mentioned Italy. And here's a funny story from our 2022 event, I think it was. We had a sailor from the UK come in, and he was a world-class, maybe a past world champion in one of the classes that we host, called the J70. He comes in with his fancy, Italian shirt from some regatta in Italy that's a really high-end place. And he comes in and goes, "This was fantastic. I'm coming back, but next year it's not just for the regatta. We're coming in I'm bringing the family, and we're going to stay for a couple of weeks." It's that type of, everybody who comes to the event for the first time is always overwhelmed by what the facility and what we provide as far as the racing. So, any other questions? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's just this regatta. Yeah. And there's similar regattas throughout the country, that they participate in. But these people are, and it's, something we try to do with this regatta too, is actually, we have an education process that they go through racing out here, where we bring in some world-class sailors to talk about what they saw on the race courses. So we're sending them back to their local areas, hopefully sending them back better sailors. And they're coming from Chicago, they're coming from Connecticut, they're coming from California, they're coming from Washington, they're coming from all over. So and that's not an easy thing for these people. They're flying in teams. The expense of attending this regatta is sometimes pretty significant. We've had people spend quite a bit of money to win these classes. Yeah, that's a great question that you think about it, I would say that the event really kind of became, I would say, sustainably profitable and everything, probably 2005, 2006. And we've probably, I would say, the highest maybe we've seen on an economic impact is $6 million per year. So I guess we could do the math on that.
They used to do it out of the parking lot of the city marina and just grill hamburgers, and now we've got all of this.
Right.
A long way.
Yeah, I tend to complicate things. But I can also tell you, you know, a good little metric is that we've also given away almost $750,000 through the years. You know, it's added up, and you know, we try to give away and give back as much as we possibly can each year, and leave enough to run their race. And luckily, you know, we were fortunate enough to have, you know, the coffers, you know, to support a COVID event. You know, where we pretty much had spent all our funds because it's all marketing and everything else, and then not to have the event and have to, you know, give back all the sponsorship money. That was a pretty heavy hit for the event, but we were able to survive that, and we hope to just continue to grow and use our funds to grow the sport.
How did having Yorktown hosting this really set this event apart from really any other in the country?
You know, I don't know of any other event that's on an aircraft carrier. You know, and I think it's, yeah, again, it's just, you know, it's so race week, right? It's just something that we're setting the bar, and being able to do this, it's just going to be awesome. I think it's not a challenge, it's just now we've got to leverage it to its fullest. You know, we've got a movie theater, we've got all sorts of activations for sponsors that will make sponsorship so much more effective. We're looking at using one of the piers we want to have a community day of this year's race week, where it's like, just go look at what the boats are that are sailing, and to show people how to get involved in the sport. And we're going to try to have all the we're going to get the drones and get the footage to have live footage being displayed on the ship during the day's racing, so that the attendees, you know, that are going to already be on the ship can go, what's going on here? You know, this is pretty cool. How do I get in? Then the next step is, how do I get involved? And it's not as hard as people think. It's very, very easy. You know, the mayor could probably attest. You know, a 6-pack of beer will get you on a boat. You know, it doesn't take, you know, you don't have to own the boat. You know, there's a lot of crew on these boats, and it's a great team sport, so it's easy to get involved.
Somebody who doesn't know much about the sport, how fast can these sailboats actually go?
Most of these boats will go, I would say, 6, which is 7, you know, 8 miles an hour, and then they can have speeds up to 25, depending on the wind and the wind angle. The boats have gotten, through the years, have gotten crazy fast. You know, they're able to plane. There used to be a rule that there is a waterline length of a boat, and that was kind of what it dictated its speed. Now these boats are planing. They're not exactly flying like the America's Cup boats and the GP50 boats are, but yeah, we've had boats come in. There's a great video on our website. We had a 52-footer a number of years ago, and it was too windy to sail them offshore, so we raced them in the harbor, and we couldn't race the smaller boats in the harbor because it was so windy. Take a look at that footage. That boat is doing 27 knots going down the breakwater on the south side of the harbor. You know, drawing 13 feet, by the way, you know, so there were some nervous times, but I mean, it's pretty special.
Do you guys have the total as to the accommodations tax dollars that are helping sponsor this?
We do, from the town. All of that is public information. We'll be happy to get that to you. And they are a top tier recipient of the maximum amount that the town is allowed to give, and have been for many years.
Yeah, for several years we've been able to, you know, we sort of, right, it's, you know, the bridge run's probably the big event, you know, and now that we've got our bridge, the aircraft carrier, but we've always kind of been with them, and it was, you know, the interesting thing with that is that, you know, our teams are coming in on Monday, Tuesday, staying through Sunday and Monday, you know, to put their boats away. So that the length of the event, I think, is the big game changer as far as accommodations tax and the beds and heads. Well, thanks again.
Thanks so much for coming out.